So I'm going to delete everything here. As I was alluding to earlier, we can actually use classes as a type as well. Classes are types. So I'm going to create a new class that's called feet to inches. And basically it is going to have an int called feet, and then is going to have a constructor, which if you don't understand what those are right now, that's okay. This is a little bit more complex. This book is sort of all over the place, but as I've said, I'm trying to walk through this to help somebody if that would be needed. Inches is going to equal feet times 12. So there we go. So basically what this is it is a physical representation of feet to inches. So just like we were using ints and doubles, we can use this feet to inches unit, 2 inches, just create a new variable name. And then we'll say new feet to inches and pass in a foot value. So I passed in 3 feet. So I'm also going to want to add another function that we're going to be able to call, and what this will do is get the inches. Alright, so I've created this other function called getInches, and it will return the inches. There's a shorter way to do this, but we're just showing that there's a function and we're able to do this. So I can do console.writeLine again. And then again, I can call fti.getInches. And this will return an int. And the nice thing is, as you can see, we're not getting any errors. And what this is doing again is, since this is an int, it's calling that toString method so that way we can actually print it out to the console. We're going to do another read key here so that way we can see our results. And then print this out. So 3 inches or 3 feet times 12 is 36. So 36 inches was a result. And if we want to go even fancier on this, we could change the type return to string and then say inches plus inches. And so if we run this code again, what I did was return inches plus inches, and as you can see, it says 36 space inches in a nicely formatted way. And again, we didn't have to do .toString verbosely because it already knows that it has to, but basically C# is already putting in this code for us. So I'll just go ahead and remove that. These functions in the class are called data members, and they can be private or public, and this is a little bit more advanced and need to go into right now, but these are the properties of a class. And then these functions are called member functions, and basically there will always be this thing called a constructor, which will initialize the class depending on what you need it to do, and then there will also be other functions that will perform certain tasks like getters and setters that will get the inches or get whatever values you need and then set values. So there are 2 different types of variables. One is called instance variables, and these are both of these variables. Basically, they relate to the class, this particular instance of the class. So when I create a new feet to inches class, both feet and inches are set accordingly based on what I pass in here. But you can also create static variables, which in this case I could create like a constant, which is a value that wouldn't change. Conversion. And basically, I'm just doing this for an example, but this would mean that every single member of feet to inches would have this conversion. And it's not limited to just this particular instance, but every single feet to inches instance will have this variable. And I can actually change this, and I could change this on the constructor load. And even if I created multiple objects here, every time that I changed it, it would affect each and every class. And there are a couple different access specifiers. So you have public, and you also have private. And I believe in C# there's probably also an option for protected. Yeah. So there's a couple of difference between these guys. If I set this member variable to public, then I can access that directly through this FTI instance. If I set it to private, then it's not touchable outside of just the code inside this class. And protected is a little bit funky. It has to do with inheritance. So it's a little bit weird, a little bit more complex than I want to get into right now. But those are the three different access specifiers. You won't see protected as much, if ever. You'll see public and private quite a bit. And most of the time, the member variables will be private, and the member functions will be public. This is something called encapsulation. It's one of the pillars of object-oriented programming. It's meant to encapsulate data so that way you don't expose more than you need to.